She's like an NPC repeating the same 3 talking points because that's all they have. That's all they have. They have to be NPCs, you see. They have to be NPCs because reality disagrees with them. They might as well be in a video game. They might as well be in a movie or a TV show. They might as well be NPCs because that's all that they can do. They can't look at the data. They can't look at the studies. They can't look at empirical reality before their eyes and ears. They have to go down the dialogue tree because they do not have any actual reality backing them up. Like, and the idea that Jon Stewart on Apple TV Plus is one of the most popular mouthpieces out there, actually holding these people to account for their obvious bullshit is insane to me.
Even rights have responsibilities, and that within those responsibilities are responsibilities and order, otherwise it's chaotic. I'll go you one further. You want to ban drag show readings to children.
To minors, yes.
Why?
Why?
What are you protecting?
Why can we prohibit children from voting, those under 18 from voting?
Why are you banning...
Also that.
What is this equivocacy? Why can we ban people under the age of 18 from voting on the one hand, and people going to family-friendly drag shows on the other hand? Something makes me think this isn't really the same thing, you know? I feel like that's not the best example. You could, like, a better example, it would still be a stupid example, but a better example would be like, oh, well, why can we ban children from drinking alcohol and purchasing alcohol? Because that's actually damaging to them. But that would still be a false equivocacy because going to a family-friendly drag show is not damaging to kids.
Is that free speech? Are you infringing on that performer's free speech?
They can continue to exercise their free speech, just not in front of a child.
Why?
Ah, limited free speech, you see. You know, from these free speech absolutists, anytime the conversation of white people being able to say the N-word comes up, all of a sudden, I'm a free speech absolutist, man. I'm for letting everybody say what they want to say, man. You gotta put the ideas out there in the marketplace of ideas, let people hash it out like Aristotle and the other guy in that one picture, and there you go. I'm a free speech absolutist, except when it comes to literally everything there is to do with learning about the history of queer people, learning about the history of black and brown people, learning about the history of the foundation of this country, which was literally founded utilizing slave labor and genociding the indigenous populations of North America. All that, of course, you know, limited free speech in that regard. Because why would we even need to learn about any of that, right? Really? I mean, come on. They'll leave drag queens alone if they start saying the N-word. Listen, some of the cis gay white drag queens out there, I'm just saying, they might already be.
Because the government does have a responsibility to protect.
I'm sorry?
The government
With
does
the soft A, of course. Also, I'm joking. I don't know if that's the case.
have a responsibility in certain instances to
What's
protect
the
children.
leading cause of death amongst children in this country? And I'm going to give you a hint. It's not drag show readings to children.
Correct, yes.
So what is it?
I love how Jon Stewart is approaching this conversation like he's this person's father. He says, so what is it?
So what is it?
I'm presuming you're going to say it's firearms.
He's talking to him like he's a
I'm
dog.
going to say it like it's an opinion.
Like, he's literally talking to him like he's a dog. It's like your dog shit on the floor, and you're like, hey, what is this? What is it? Tell me what it is. The dog's looking at you like, I didn't do nothing. What is it? Tell me what it is. You're supposed to do that outside.
That's what it is. It's firearms. More than cancer, more than car accidents. And what you're telling me is you don't mind infringing free speech to protect children from this amorphous thing that you think of. But when it comes to children that have died, you don't give a flying fuck.
So true.
To stop that, because that shall not be infringed. That is hypocrisy at its highest order.
So true. He's absolutely wiping his ass with this congressperson or whatever. Jesus. Well, the idea is, proletarians, that videos like this should hopefully make people who are on the fence about it all move closer toward the correct position, which is, in this case, family-friendly drag shows don't hurt nobody. There's never been any studies to suggest that they do. And also, infringing on the rights of queer people doesn't seem to provide any benefits and only ends up hurting the queer people and their allies. Like, it is not wasted effort to do this. It's not about this one guy, it's about people who listen to the guy. Yeah, exactly. Jon Stewart's been good on, I think it was trans issues in the past as well, right? He was talking to some congresswoman, I think, about trans women in sports or something. Arkansas? Let me see if I can I can find it. Oh, I think it's this one. Yeah.
Why would the state of Arkansas step in to override parents, physicians, psychiatrists, endocrinologists who have developed guidelines? Why would you override those guidelines?
Literally more than 10, I believe, organizations of doctors and scientists who have done the research and come to the conclusion on the standards of care when it comes to trans adults and trans youth. Republican politicians think they know better when they barely know shit. These motherfuckers probably fail the IQ test to join the military, man. That's why they're in politics.
I think it's important that all of those physicians, all of those experts, for every single one of them, there's an expert that says we don't need to allow children.
For every single one of them, there's an expert that I've made up in my mind that's also happening to get paid by the same people that pay me campaign contributions that say the exact opposite of what those experts are saying. I tell you what, these motherfuckers don't know what they're talking about. Like, we literally talked about this in the Jamie Reed video that'll go up in 2 days on my YouTube channel. That whole whistleblower of, oh my god, my name is Jamie Reed, and I worked at a gender-affirming care clinic in St. Louis, and all of these kids were rushed into care and all this kind of shit. Some St. Louis newspaper and another one actually went and interviewed the parents of the kids that went to this trans clinic and completely debunked it all. Completely debunked it all. Like, they live in an alternate reality that they've constructed because they are too afraid of the reality that we live in. Like, it's very clear. The data is literally never on their side. When they think it is, it's because they're twisting the data to say something that it isn't, or omitting a variety of context that leads to said data, or they're literally paying think tanks to come up with garbage data that's easily debunked. It's like, they literally are so afraid of reality that they have to craft an alternate one, utilizing propaganda to the masses in order to make themselves feel better and also get power. It's depressing, man.
We don't need to allow children to be able to take those medications. That there are many instances where...
But you know that's not true. You know it's not for everyone. There's one. These are the established...
Well, I don't know that's not true.
I don't know that that's true.
Why would you pass a law then if you don't know that that's true? Wouldn't you?
Well, I know that there are doctors and that we had plenty of people come and testify before our legislature who said that we have 98% of the young people who have gender dysphoria, that they are able to move past that. And once they have the help that they need, no longer suffer from gender dysphoria.
They no longer suffer from gender dysphoria. The study that she's citing, by the way, has been debunked, I'm pretty sure, if it's the one I'm thinking of. Also, they have people come to our town halls and our legislature meetings and talking about how, all these experts, they come in from around the country because for some reason in a variety of these red states, there aren't enough anti-trans people that can pretend to be experts on the issue there, so they have to be shipped around like the detransition grifter Chloe Cole, just going around all different fucking state legislatures on like a trip of, advocacy for the removal of trans people from society, because this one person had a bad deal of it, even though like less than 1% of people regret their gender affirming procedures. Like, come on, man.
Wow.
Without that medical treatment.
Wow.
That's an incredibly made up figure.
So true.
That doesn't comport with any of the studies or documentation that exists from these medical organizations. What medical association are you talking about of these doctors?
Well, we have all of that.
Oh, we have a couple people that come into our state legislatures from off the street. We got concerned parents who don't even know how to find studies online and just get all their information from minion memes on Facebook. We got the best of the best coming in and supporting us on our rhetoric.
Legislative history, and we'll be glad to provide that to you. I don't have the name of that off the top of my head. I know it's something that...
You don't have the name of the organization?
Yeah, like, he's not even asking for the exact study. He's not asking for the study. He's not asking for the people that collaborated on the study. He's not asking for, like, any of the data. He's literally asking for the organization's name. That's it. Like, for example, the WPATH or the American Endocrine Society. Something like that, the people whose literal job it is to come to these conclusions, to do the research, to look into all of it and come to the standards of care that they've all agreed on. They've also all agreed to not have legislature come forward to try to restrict gender affirming care, that's actually a bad thing that Republicans are doing that. Crazy, man.
Off the top of my head.
Oh, okay.
But yes, we have all of that cited in all of our briefs.
You're suggesting that protecting children means overriding the recommendations of the American Medical Association, the American Association of Pediatrics, the Endocrine Society.
We don't have enough data. We don't have enough.
We don't have enough data. We just got like 10 fucking plus organizations that have exactly refuted everything I'm talking about in this interview. Like, it would be one thing if I was just always right, because I always am, on these issues, and that it actually led to some amount of change. But because we don't live in a democratic society, it's like, well, shit. All of this shit is out in the open. It is abundantly clear with like a modicum of research that all Republicans are full of shit when it comes to gender affirming care, trans and queer people broadly, etc., etc. They are knowingly lying about what is happening when it comes to trans youth as well. They're mutilating and castrating children, which has all been debunked and isn't happening. But like, what does it do, man? They still have a stranglehold on the red states that they have been able to dupe enough people into voting for them in. They're still able to put forward these kinds of bills because for some reason the Republican Party is still a party that's seen with any semblance of fucking sincerity. The idea that the Republican Party is allowed to continue to exist as a political organization with any amount of power whatsoever in its current state is laughable to me. Like, the entire world is laughing at us because of the Republican Party. The Democrats ain't much better, by the way, but they're certainly not exactly one-to-one Republicans, so they're marginally better, and therefore I'm willing to give them a chance. Anyway, like, after attempting a fucking coup, knowably, the idea that the Republican Party is not like a completely politically inept afterthought is ridiculous to me.
That these drugs are effective and that these children are
But you know, that's just the power of propaganda, man.
off, and that we should
You don't have
encourage
enough,
these.
or it's not enough for you. Let me try and flip it a different way and see if maybe this can help. In Arkansas, if you have pediatric cancer, and obviously we all want to protect children, I think we established that earlier, whose guidelines do you follow for pediatric cancer?
Oh, Facebook minion
Well, I
boomer
think
memes, obviously.
If my child, who is 4, if I was faced with that terrible decision, then I would be speaking to my doctor. And if my doctor recommended something that I disagreed with, then I would get a second opinion. And that's what I believe that these parents need to make sure that they're encouraged to get numerous opinions when they're talking about an irreversible step.
You're
in
not
their
letting
child's
them. The state's not saying, get another opinion. What they're saying is, you can't.
True.
What you're actually saying
No,
is
that's
the opposite.
actually not at all what the state said. The state simply said that you cannot perform these procedures, and so parents should get another opinion. That they
Yeah, they get
and
another
children
opinion, and
should
if they
want-
don't agree with it, and the parents want to make the choice to go with the first opinion they got, which just so happened to align with the standards of care and the countless organizations whose literal job it is to come to these conclusions, they get that second opinion, and you got the second opinion, you can't do anything with it. You know, you can't even wipe your ass with it. It's so stupid.
want to have another
But
opinion.
that's not-
Because again, these are 9, 10,
So
11,
if your
12
child is suffering from pediatric cancer, and the state comes in and says to you, they recommend chemotherapy, but we're not going to let you do that. You can't. We think you should get a different opinion, and here's the organization we think you should get the opinion from. They're not the mainstream, but they're an organization. So
Facebook boomer
that's who
minion
you
memes.
have to be treated by. Does that sound like something you would
Well, I
accept?
think that's a very extreme example. That's not at all in line with what we're talking about. We're not saying that at some point, because when you have cancer, it literally is, and particularly pediatric cancer, and having friends that have lost children
Sure.
to pediatric cancer, having a 4-year-old, I'm sure.
I've got some bad news for you. Parents with children who have gender dysphoria have lost children
True.
to suicide and depression
They absolutely
because it's
have.
acute. And so these mainstream medical organizations have developed guidelines.
She said they absolutely have, and that's why, as Republicans, we're trying to put in place policies that data shows would literally lead to the increase of suicide and depression in the youth. And we're doing that because, you know, parents, they deserve to have a second opinion. They deserve to have a different opinion. If the one opinion says, hey, this is the standards of care that all major medical organizations have come to, and it could actually lead to the lessening of depression and suicidality in the youth, well, you should be able to get her another opinion that says, oh, well, you're not allowed to do that, actually. That's not a good idea. You should want your child to have depression and commit suicide. And then you got the two opinions. You can't go with the first one that's going to save your child's life, but you've got the second one. At least you have the right to go and get the second one. You know what I mean? I mean, we've done all we can do.
Through peer-reviewed data and studies, and through those guidelines, they've improved mental health outcomes. So I'm confused
Looks like she's about to
why
cry.
you follow AMA guidelines and AAAP guidelines for all other health issues than Arkansas, because we checked, but not for this.
It's simply saying, let those
young people who are facing gender confusion and dysphoria allow them to become adults and make that decision. So the thing is that they're not trying to become the adults that their biological sex and the puberty that would be the result of that would make them be. They don't want to do that, but we're going to force them to do that because we are mentally fucking redacted and we have no idea what we're saying. We understand that this seems to be a way that we can get votes and potentially get power, and also we just happen to like to see the suffering of children. You know, we're big fans of child abuse in the Republican Party, so we're just going to continue to allow children to suffer while we also in our states, the red states, still have laws that allow for child marriage and arranged marriages for children. We also allow for beauty pageants. We also defend child abusers on a daily basis when it comes to priests and pastors in the Catholic Church that have literally been laicized by the Catholic Church and found guilty of sexual crimes against adults and minors. We will defend them as well because that is their religious liberty. And we'll do, because we just care so much about the children, you see.
So here's where we have our crossroads. You've made the determination that protecting these children means not giving them access to the guidelines and care that have been designed by medical and mental health professionals for children expressing gender dysphoria. And I'm asking you again, what are your qualifications to step in and say, no, keeping you from that care is protecting you. You've made that determination.
Well, these are irreversible decisions that these children at these young ages are making. Or
you know what else is also an irreversible thing? And also not a decision most of the time, especially for trans youth? Puberty. Kind of difficult to reverse a lot of those changes, you see. Because when you go through puberty, whatever your biological sex is, the puberty that you have will lead to you developing secondary sex characteristics that align with your biological sex. Now, if you go through puberty and your gender identity doesn't align with your biological sex, there's going to be a variety of changes that happen to your body that you're not going to want and are going to require more medical intervention in the future, which coincidentally Republicans also want to outlaw when it comes to adult trans people. I digress. She's like an NPC repeating the same 3 talking points because that's all they have. That's all they have. They have to be NPCs, Leo. You see, they have to be NPCs because reality disagrees with them. They might as well be in a video game. They might as well be in a movie or a TV show. They might as well be NPCs because that's all that they can do. They can't look at the data. They can't look at the studies. They can't look at empirical reality before their eyes and ears. They have to go down the dialogue tree because they do not have any actual reality backing them up. Like, and the idea that Jon Stewart on fucking Apple TV Plus is one of the most popular mouthpieces out there, actually holding these people to account for their obvious bullshit is insane to me. The idea that the New York Times is out there like, oh, we gotta see both sides of the issue. On the one hand, you have literally every single major medical organization that has said the standards of care for trans youth and trans adults are XYZ, and that puberty blockers have virtually zero negative side effects. It is so easy for mainstream news organizations to utilize their massive amounts of resources to look into the data, to look into the studies that me, a fucking no-name dumb dumbass YouTube live streamer and Twitch live streamer have been able to do, and understand that that's the consensus on the issue, the standards of care, for a fucking reason, and then say that every time the Republicans come to them with we're just trying to protect the children against shit that's not even happening, man. I don't understand it. I think the biggest reason why is because trans articles get clicks, right? Trans articles get clicks. Doesn't matter what the issue at hand is. If you mention trans people in an article, it's gonna get clicks. You don't know why? Because conservatives are absolutely fucking obsessed with trans people all the time. Putting out an article about trans people gets you clicks as a news organization. And you could put out articles that say, oh, this is the medical and scientific consensus on the issue, and the Republicans are full of shit. And that would still get you amount of clicks and like hate engagement from these deranged, delusional, psychopathic Republicans and conservatives. But they do this, oh, we want to see both sides of the issue shit, because they want to keep those psychotic Republicans around. I think that's part of it.
Or that their
They're not
parents are
making the decision. You're making it sound like a 9-year-old walks into a doctor's office and says, give me some testosterone. And the doctor goes, oh, thank God, because we're wanting to create an army of transgenders.
So true.
Because we're crazy.
That's true.
And they go right in like...
A kid comes in, like, excuse me, I would like to get some testosterone. Could you please cut off the breast that I don't have yet? And the doctor's like, right away. Right away, sir. We'll do that for you immediately. Instead of, you know, the multi-year-long process that trans youth have to go through, that puberty blockers literally buy them the time to go through to be able to interface with medical and mental health professionals, their parents, whom they require the consent of, because these trans youths are going to be under the age of medical consent in a lot of places, and also themselves, because it turns out the children are people too. They're human beings. Now, they might be fucking stupid because they haven't been educated on a lot of shit. That's why the medical and mental health professionals are there. That's why school exists, though. You know, Republicans not a big fan of educated populations and not a big fan of educating the children. At least not about the things that are real and exist in reality. They'd rather teach them about things that aren't, like the fairy tales they make up in their heads. John Stewart's position should be the bare minimum baseline Democrat position? Yeah. In like a just world.
Now, we passed a law to protect the children in Arkansas, and I think that's what is important.
Again, the medical community disagrees with you that
Well,
that's
not all of the
protecting
medical
children.
Not
community.
all the medical
Who
community,
doesn't?
like
We
98%
had
of the medical
experts
community.
testify here in Arkansas.
Okay.
Experts,
From what medical
quote-unquote.
organizations?
Well, we have all of those in our briefs, and I apologize that I wasn't prepared to have a Supreme Court argument today in front of you, but
What a pussy.
we are going to have arguments on this case
Right.
when the time comes.
I'm sorry I wasn't prepared to talk about literally the topic that I was brought in here to talk about. That's my bad. You know, I came in here and I was under the impression that we were going to talk about a bill that we passed that would have required looking into the basic information surrounding what we were trying to ban in that bill. I wasn't expecting to come in here and try to have to talk about that. I mean, come on, I'm just a dumb person, you know? I'm just a human being. We all make mistakes. So stupid, man. Like, these people's brains are diseased. And it's the same for this smug motherfucker. It's very annoying. Why are more Democrats outraged and engaging with the public like Republican politicians do? Because they're all pussies. So this is the actual big problem here. The Republicans have actually been successful, because the Democrats are weak and fucking useless, in framing trans healthcare for the youth as, oh, they're mutilating and castrating children's bodies. You know, this weird fixation that conservatives seem to have on the genitalia of children. They've actually been able to make that the main thing that Democrats would have to answer to if they were to go out and be pro-trans when it comes to agreeing with the medical and scientific consensus on the issue and the standards of care on the issue that a variety of major medical organizations whose literal job it is to understand that shit have come to. Allowed that framing to happen because they weren't out in the offensive in support of trans youth and trans adults, right? If the Democrats were out there pounding the pavement, talking about the data, talking about the studies, and actually utilizing good rhetoric that would be convincing to people, the Republicans being like, oh, they're mutilating and castrating the children, they're doing it, that wouldn't be as effective because everybody would understand that it's stupid. But it is effective, and it's an emotionally charged way of talking about it that's divorced from reality, which is the entire point. The entire point was to conflate trans healthcare with child abuse. That is the entire point of it. So that any time a Democrat comes out and tries to defend trans healthcare, they get conflated with child abuse. You could have avoided all of that if you listened to the activists in your fucking party and were offensive in your support for the marginalized. But they never are. Democrats are always, well, who could have seen this call? God, I'm sorry I'm late. I got caught in traffic when it came to this rhetoric that everybody in the activist side of things understood was coming from a mile away, years in advance. Sorry, there was a pothole in the road and it popped the tires, so we had to get AAA out, and then they had to get us a new tire, and it was just a whole mess, so we weren't able to get there in time, you see. So it's like, it all could have been avoided. Because, nothing I'm saying right now is, novel. I'm not, an exceptionally skilled rhetorician or somebody who's, literally a scientist, a medical researcher looking into this shit. I just have a brain, functioning eyes, and the ability to interpret information that I can read. And even if I didn't have functioning eyes, I could utilize Braille and text-to-speech and yada, 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 and come to the conclusion, it looks like the grand majority of major medical organizations seem to agree that this is the correct course of action, so let's go, man. It's so easy. It doesn't require an insane brain lord to figure out. Conservatives don't care about children. They want to ban trans people from existing. Yeah, and that's always been the point, right? They've always been, what about the children? What about the children? Every single time they want to strip rights from a minority group. They literally whatabouted the children when it came to desegregation and black kids going to school with white kids. They what about the children when it came to the gay rights fight. They what about the children when it comes to the trans rights fight. They what about the children about literally fucking everything. Meanwhile, the Republican states out there still allow for child marriage. Meanwhile, the average child abuser is a white cis man who knows the child, and also a lot of them happen to be conservatives, happen to be religious, happen to be in the Catholic and Christian church. Republicans voters don't look into whether they're being lied to. Well, yeah, they just look at something, and if they recognize it as something that confirms their preconceived notions on an issue that are usually held because of disgust or fear of something they don't understand, they'll just treat it as gospel and continue to move forward. This is why religious thinking is a fucking blight on society. I think it's fine if you're religious. I don't give a shit if you're religious. But I'm talking about religious thinking, dogmatism, the idea that your views could never possibly be shook by empirical evidence of your eyes and ears, that you just decide to go along and believe with some other shit that's been made up, that's been proven to be made up. But that's what right-wingers utilize, right? They utilize the fact that they push religion on everybody. You have to be religious in order to be a Republican, for instance, to be a conservative. It is very rare you're going to find an atheist conservative out there. And then they utilize the fact that that religion in, sometimes not harmful ways, but oftentimes still kind of harmful ways when it comes to, the treatment of women and children, but a lot of the time in non-harmful ways. So, they utilize the goodwill that they gain from people who are religious, who see the community that going to church gives them, positive benefits to their life, and they weaponize that trust in a negative capacity in order to make them believe things that are actively detrimental to their lives, like the prosperity gospel or whatever the fuck. The idea that mega church owners deserve to have all their money because they're envoys of God or whatever, and if you're just religious enough, you'll be able to have a private jet and a multi-million-dollar compound just like your favorite megachurch pastor, right? The idea that cutting taxes on the wealthy is actually a religious thing in that way, and you shouldn't ever possibly question if it's actually a good idea or not. They weaponize that trust that they've gained in people in order to parlay it into that negative political outcome for those people. You played yourself. You're getting played by people who are pretending to advocate for you. You can use religion in order to get people together and form community around shared views and opinions and, you know, provide for each other, you know, like Jesus Christ, for instance, is said to have been in favor of. Or you can utilize it in order to restrict the rights of everybody. You could also do that. Anyway, I'm just preaching to the choir right now. It's not shocking to me, Berserk. Nearly every religious right-winger is in favor of the monarchy. Like, let's be honest. They want an authoritarian dictatorship. They would have supported the king in the Revolutionary War. This is old news. Like, it's literally in the name, conservatism. To keep things the same. Conservatism means different things in different areas of time, right? To be a conservative during the Revolutionary War would have been to support the king. To be a conservative during the fight for the abolition of slavery, which still hasn't been abolished by the 13th Amendment, you can still be a slave so long as you're convicted of a federal crime. To be a conservative then would be to keep slavery in place. Now, of course, they're not just conservative, they're also regressive. They want to go back. They want to claw back civil rights and go back to essentially having a king, an authoritarian dictatorship that lords over everybody else, because they're all cuckolds. They all like seeing their wife get fucked by other men. And not in the good way where they're all in consenting parties there. You know, it's not good. And shouts out to anybody who engages with that in an ethical capacity. I don't understand it. I don't understand why conservatives are so into cuckoldry. I don't get it. It's not for me. But for the people that are engaging with that in an ethical way, more power to you. I don't give a shit what you do. I just don't like it when people, you know, try to force that onto everybody else. I don't know. What am I talking about, man? This video is kind of called as yet another double because my life is a movie for real, in that it's a really bad one, and my sleep schedule is a complete dumpster fire, and every other excuse you could possibly think of. The winners are Arigafem and Empress Lillian. Thank you both for your stalwart support and for consistently retweeting my garbage. Appreciate you. If you'd like to be the next Connor Call, all you can do is follow me on Twitter at ConnorCC, retweet my video links when they go live. Remember to subscribe to the channel, put all notifications on, to the bell, leave a like if you'd like. Comment something down below about how Jon Stewart is a guy and he's pretty cool. Have a good day.